Hey there, Rub-a-Dub subs. It's Blackmetalwerewolf, making a video I've been wanting to make for a very, very long time. As many of you already know, I am a colossal fan of Brütal Legend. I got that game when I was 16 years old. I had my first shitty part-time job, and I saved up all the money I could to buy a PlayStation 3 and that video game. And ever since then, it's been stuck with me from my teenage years well into adulthood. Essentially any chance I get, I play it, because I love it that much. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you've probably noticed all the references and mentions I've made to it. But even with all that, I've never really scratched the surface as to what made that game so damn great. Even in my Metal Video Games video, I talked about it, but I didn't go that hardcore into it. So that's why with this video, I'm going to be doing an in-depth dive into the beauty of Brütal Legend. Because what I hold in my hands isn't just going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your soul. When talking about this game, I always found it so difficult to know exactly where to start about describing how good it is. Is it the characters? Is it the writing? Is it the environment? Is it the gameplay, the graphics, the soundtrack? When it comes down to it, it's all amazing, and it all comes together into a near perfect package. So I suppose I'll start with the environment. One of the biggest draws to this game for me is the world and environment. This game has a fully actualized heavy metal fantasy world, which obviously you don't get in a lot of video games. A lot of the times when I listen to music, what I like to do is turn off the lights, lay down in bed, close my eyes, and envision the worlds and scenarios these bands are playing about. And this game was able to capture that almost perfectly. From the wide open fields with ancient relics sticking up, to the dark underworld. It almost has everything a heavy metal fan would like. Not to mention all the references that most heavy metal fans will notice and definitely appreciate. My two favorite environments in the game have to be the snow-covered hilltop, because snow is just cool and I'm Canadian, so why the hell not like that. And of course, the beach shore with the giant wall of speakers. It's so cool, it's so badass, and I just love driving around and looking at the environment. Next up, we'll talk about the story. And holy hot damn is the story in this game good. Just an FYI, I'm going to be spoiling a few things up ahead, so if you don't want to know what happens, I suggest you turn off the video now. So what happens is there's a character named Eddie Riggs, who is the world's best roadie. He ends up accidentally getting hurt on stage and pours some blood into his belt buckle, which turns out to be a sacrifice to the metal god Ormageddon, who then takes his body and whisks him off to the heavy metal fantasy world. He then gangs up with a bunch of ragtag misfits to overthrow the evil overlords who conquer the land. I don't want to give away too much, but trust me, if you played it, you know how great it is, and if you haven't played it, you will definitely enjoy it. When I first started playing this game, I read a lot of reviews online, people saying that the story is too short, which I disagree with. Granted, it's not some 50-hour story, but you know what? The way I figure it is the team who made this game had a good story they wanted to tell, and they didn't want to fill it with too much filler bullshit, which I like. I appreciate a story that tells you a beginning, a middle, and an end, not beginning, filler bullshit, middle, filler bullshit, even more filler bullshit, then some disappointing ending. So this game, you get what you pay for. It has a good story, it's clean, it's concise, it tells the stories it wants to tell, and then it ends. And if you want more, there are a bunch of side missions and a bunch of collectibles to find in the game. So it's something that you can really play over a weekend, say if you're really busy like myself and you don't have a lot of time to play video games anymore. When I finally finished the game 100%, I clocked in about 20 hours, but that's again, I got every collectible, every trophy in the game. If you just want to play the story, you're looking at about an 8-hour story, but let me tell you, it's 8 hours of pure metal fun. Now of course, a story is only as good as the characters within that story, and let me tell you, this game had great characters. I already mentioned Eddie Riggs, voiced by Jack Black. Now I know Jack Black is kinda iffy on a lot of people. A lot of people love him, and a lot of people hate him. Personally, I love the guy, and I thought with this performance, he really knocked it out of the park. He delivered each line with such passion and seriousness and goofiness when it needed to be goofy. It just shows that he really is a gigantic heavy metal fan, and that's why they picked him for the role. But there are a lot of other characters that really stick out. For example, the main villain, Diviculus, voiced by Tim Curry. Holy fuck, is he intimidating as hell. Not to mention they have Ozzy Osbourne doing the Metal Guardian voice, and Lemmy Kilmister as the Killmaster. What's not to love about that? It also has a great supporting cast, like Lars and Ophelia. Two great characters that you really grow to love, and what happens to them when bad things happen, like, you feel it, and you really don't want to lose any of these characters because they grow on you very quickly. You get to know them, you love them, they have great animations in the face. What's not to like? Now, I can talk about story and characters till the cows come home, but let's face it, this is a video game. How well does it play? Well, personally, I think it plays pretty damn well. For the most part, it's a hack and slash, semi-RPG game. You go around hack and slashing enemies, gain some experience, buy new cool weapons for your character and for your car. There was a pretty big thing that a lot of people liked and a lot of people hated, and that was the RTS elements. If you don't know what RTS means, it stands for real-time strategy. A lot of the times the big boss battles consist of one stage versus another stage, where you have to gather troops and rally them together to fight your enemy while they're doing the same thing. It's not a turn-based thing. While you're doing your thing, they're planning and strategizing their thing. Personally, I enjoyed it, but that's because I'm not really a big RTS fan, so I didn't really know the difference between a good RTS and a bad RTS. Apparently, really diehard RTS fans did not like it because it wasn't good RTS gameplay. But for an average gamer like myself, who's never really played something like that, it was easy to learn, it was fun to play, and it gave me a little feel for RTS and kind of made me want to play other ones. Granted, it wasn't the best RTS game in the whole wide world, but it's for a beginner, it's really good. Other than that, a lot of times you're just hacking, slashing, going on adventures, exploring the environment. Pretty basic gameplay. Nothing special, but it's not bad. So I really enjoyed it. Another thing people really care about when it comes to video games is the graphics. How well does it look? Well, for this game, it looks pretty good. It was a fine balance between realism and cartoonishness, which I really liked. For example, some of the characters had exaggerated features, overdeveloped neck muscles, bigger hands, but other characters were really well proportioned and looked great. One of the highlights, I think, is the facial animation. Every character, when they were talking, showed great facial animation. It was clear that they wanted to get that across in the video game, so that when someone talked and when they showed emotion, it was very clearly visible on their face. I know this game came out in 2009, and this was the first PS3 game I ever got. So for me, this was next gen. I was used to playing N64 and PS2 games before this, so when I got this game and popped it in my brand new PS3, it blew me the fuck away. So granted, it might not be the best looking game now compared to today's standards, but for its time, it was damn good. Now I get to talk about my favorite goddamn thing about this game, and that is the soundtrack. This has the best soundtrack of any video game ever. It has over 150 metal songs, and let me tell you, they are some good ones. You get thrash metal, death metal, black metal, industrial metal. Essentially any type of heavy metal you like, there's at least one song there that'll pique your interest. I know a lot of other video games, like Grand Theft Auto, might have one or two heavy metal songs on the radio, but this game is strictly metal, and I fucking love it. Throughout the game, you play through story quests and find collectibles, which gives you new songs, which then can be played in the radio of your car as you drive around. And to me, that's probably the funnest thing to do in this game, to just drive around and listen to the music. When I first got this game, I was really young, and I had to script and save to get the PlayStation 3 plus this game, so I wasn't really buying a lot of CDs at the time. So being able to sit down and play a video game and have 150 songs at my fingertip was amazing. I know when I first got it, I actually sat down and made a list of all my favorite songs, because there were a lot of songs and a lot of bands on here that I had never heard before. So I sat down and made a list and swore to myself that I'm going to get every album that these songs belong to, and I'm happy to say that I'm almost at that point. Let me tell you, it's great. So this game really inspired me to be a bigger metalhead than what I was at the time, and it clearly paid off. I suppose the last thing I can really talk about are my hopes and dreams for a sequel. The first Brütal Legend came out in 2009, and there has been no sequel since. Unfortunately, after Brütal Legend came out, the publishing company, EA, totally fucked over Double Fine, the production company, and things really didn't go well from then on. Thankfully, Double Fine is now getting back on sure footing, and they recently announced that they're making a Psychonauts sequel based on crowdfunding. That's all well and good. Unfortunately, it would take an estimated $30 million to make a Brütal Legend 2, mostly because of licensing costs for the music, and they want to double the size of the game. So that's a lot of cake you have to get to make a video game like that. And that's a lot of money to try to expect to get out of crowdfunding. So essentially, you would need to go with a big-ass AAA publisher. And those can be hard to come by, especially with, kind of the last thing that happened to Brütal Legend 1. Hopefully one day it does happen. I have my fingers crossed. And if it does ever become like a crowdfunding thing, I will be in the front advertising that like there's no tomorrow. They don't even have to pay me. I just want to see Brütal Legend 2 get made. I love the first one so much, there's no reason there can't be a sequel. And of course, this game is so much more to me than just a video game. I've been trying to collect as much merchandise as I can. I obviously have the original soundtrack on vinyl like you guys saw before. And I also have the art book, The Art of Brütal Legend. Let me tell you, this book is damn amazing. It has so much cool concept art from characters to environments. It's really cool just seeing your favorite characters progress from a concept to a fully realized character that you know and love. It's a really good book, and if you have a chance to pick it up, I highly suggest you do. It's a really cool book, it has a lot of information that any fan would enjoy seeing. So I suppose that's all I can say about Brütal Legend. It's an amazing game that influenced me more than any game ever should influence a person, and it holds a great sentimental value for me. I bought it with my own money when I was a teenager, I played it a lot then, and I can't stop playing it now. I can honestly say I think I might have turned out differently if I never picked this game up. It influenced me in so many ways, from my appearance to even the end of my channel. When I say stay brutal, what do you think I'm referencing? Brütal Legend. I know a lot of people think Deathclock, but no, Brütal Legend was what I got introduced to first. So I suppose all I can really say is if you're a big heavy metal fan, definitely check out Brütal Legend. Unless you don't like video games, then I suppose you can pass it. And I just want to say thank you to everybody over at Double Fine. All the development team, Tim Schafer, Jack Black, everybody involved. You made an amazing game that I absolutely love. And I hope one day you guys make a sequel. And if you need someone to endorse it, you're looking at him. Overall, thank you very much for watching, guys. And stay brutal.